babies. In case you haven't heard, President Trump has been talking a housewives. He's been talking a lot about suburban housewives, right? We've all heard that. And he's been saying how we should all be so afraid because if Joe Biden is elected, our suburbs are going to be destroyed. Now, the NRA got in on the action this week, and now they are claiming that we should also be very afraid because Beto O'Rourke is going to show up at our homes to take away our AR-15s. So, to which we suburban women in Ohio and all across America responded, Beto, how soon can he come over? And it turns out pretty quickly, actually, because we invited him and he's here right now. Beto O'Rourke is here. Beto.
Just like that.
Oh my gosh, you're here in the suburbs. Should I be afraid? I'm not afraid.
Katie, I'm coming for your wine. That's
no,
all I'm interested in.
Now you're getting serious with me. You're going to take my wine. We got an issue.
I'm going to share it. I'm going to share your wine.
Okay, so what is your beverage?
I'm drinking this Deschutes IPA that is just really good. And although it's 3 o'clock here, I feel like I have permission to drink this because it's 5 o'clock there. Is that generally how this works?
It is 100% how it works. You get it. I feel seen. And I actually really do enjoy an IPA, not to be off brand here or anything, but here in Ohio, we have some microbreweries that make some very fine IPAs. So support. Okay, Beto, seriously, we're really excited you're here, especially the debate tonight, which is, going to be a thing. Just to have you here and bring your positive energy and, all the energy you're bringing to this fight in 2020 after everything you've seen over the last few years is just exactly what we needed today. So thank you. So I did want to ask you about that. Okay. So, you ran for Senate in 2018, which is sort of seen as this like rise of suburban women, right? Like women who weren't engaged in politics really at all before the 2016 election, who have engaged. I mean, this is why I started Red, White, and Blue. These women just really inspired me. And I was just wondering what you've seen in your travels all across the country, in Texas, but all across the country. What do you see in terms of the power of women in this election, and in particular, what's going on in the burbs?
So I remember, to go back a little bit, I remember going to the inauguration of Donald J. Trump in 2017. I was a member of Congress. There was an expectation that you were going to go, but it wasn't a foregone conclusion that I would, or that any of us would. In fact, I remember getting a lot of angry letters from constituents back in El Paso saying, how in the world could you attend this guy's inauguration? He is an absolute monster. Here are all the things that he said, not just about people in general, but about our community in El Paso specifically. We are an 85% Mexican-American city. We're one of those places he wants the rest of the country to be afraid of, talking about Mexicans as rapists and criminals. And my response was, look, I'm not going to his inauguration to honor the man. I'm going to this inauguration to honor our institutions and the fact that we can still pull this thing off 240 years after it started, that there will be a peaceful transition of power from a guy who for 8 years did everything he could, Barack Obama, to make life better for all of us. And that guy's going to willingly, peacefully hand over power to the guy who is hell-bent on tearing up everything that he has just done. Like, that's pretty remarkable, and we shouldn't screw with it. And so I'm going to honor that. But I cannot wait to leave DC after this inauguration. I happen to be going to Fort Worth, Texas. So we're kind of getting into, if you get a little bit outside of Fort Worth in North Texas, a little bit of the suburbs of the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area. And I had some meetings that day, and I was in a suit and a tie. I'd shaved, unlike today. My hair was combed. And I get out of this meeting, and I hear this din, this noise in the distance, like a thundering army descending upon the city of Fort Worth. And I wonder what it could be. And I start walking towards the noise. I have about an hour before my next appointment. And it comes around the corner, and it is the Women's March, which I believe was on the day after.
Mm-hmm.
And no one in Texas of all places thought there was going to be much of a Women's March. And then in Fort Worth of all places in Texas, reliably thought to be a very conservative part of the country. In fact, Tarrant County, which is the home to Fort Worth, was the largest reliably red county in the United States of America. So this is the place you see glowing red from outer space when you're orbiting Earth. And yet the streets were absolutely filled with people, primarily women, who were bringing so much extraordinarily positive energy. Just wasn't the things that people were against. It was all the great things that they were for. And I tried to enter the march, but Katie, you'll have to remember I was in a suit and a tie and I looked like a narc. And I think that the people in the march thought I was coming to bust the march or something. And I said, no, I want to get in. And this woman from El Paso, and that's where I'm from, that's where I'm transmitting right now. She was in Fort Worth, recognized me. She said, hey, Beto, come on in and join us. And I got to join this march. And really from that moment forward, early 2017 through to this moment, all the extraordinary change that I've seen take place in this country, all the hope to which I still cling in these very, very dark days is born of moments like that. And in Texas, and you all may not know this, but we have this amazing opportunity to win a majority in the state house for the first time in 20 years. And the state house candidates who are running, almost to a person, are women.
Same story in Ohio. Yep.
Same story in Ohio?
So many women. We've never had more women on the ballot in history than we do in 2020.
Isn't that awesome? And
yes.
It makes me feel so good. And sometimes, I question myself, why am I smiling in the midst of this darkness? And what do I have to be happy about? And it's because the answer is in our midst. Yes, this is a very dark moment. Yes, we can be tempted to despair. And I wouldn't blame you if you did. I've been there myself. But you look at who is meeting this moment and will overcome the darkness of this moment. And by and large, it's women. And in Texas, most of those women are women of color. And most of those women of color are Black women who are running in a state that has for so long suppressed and intimidated the votes from Black women and men and Mexican-American women and men. So there's a beautiful political, poetic justice at play in Texas. And it sounds like Ohio right now. So that's something to be happy about.
And we're not the only ones. I mean, this is happening all across the country. Women who never thought they'd run for office, but they are stepping up and using their voice, and we are here for it. So, Beto, some of those suburban women, when we have heard all this talk from President Trump about him trying to define who we are, that we are some sort of brainless suburban housewives from the 1950s, who defer to our husbands, and that we don't have a mind of our own and our own values. Well, we don't really like to stand for that. We like to define ourselves, but have a lot of fun in the process too. And all right, so we're going to play real quickly this little 30-second spot that we created this week. This is our response to the president and the NRA fear-mongering, saying that us suburban women are very afraid, not only of you, but of Senator Cory Booker coming for us in the burbs. Beverly, can we see that video?
Suburbia has got to wake up, because if they get in, you know who's in charge? Cory Booker.
If Biden wins, Cory and Beto are coming to the suburbs.
Yeah, Cory Booker, I know. I know, Beto too. You better get that ballot in, girl.
So, first of all, would you like for me to send that video to every girl you went to high school with? Just so.
Yes. Start with Lisa Flores, who I've since become really good friends with. My first serious crush in 8th and 9th grade. Back in the days when you were writing letters pre-email, and I want Lisa to see that and just realize that she missed out on this great moment. No, my wife.
Text me or email, man. I'm on it. Lisa.
I will. My wife has been sending me clips or reading aloud some stuff that's on Twitter. Some stuff that's on Twitter you really don't want your wife to read or see or read aloud to you at night.
Right.
But some of it is pretty damn funny. And,
Yes.
and that video was so good. So I've got to show that to her. Yeah.
Okay. I look forward to Amy's opinion on that. I hold her in high esteem and look forward to that video. Okay. So
that was great.
Okay, so I do. What is the funniest thing that's happened to you when you've opened somebody's door and you said, "I'm here for your AR-15"? How has that been going so far, Beto?
Different than you might expect. You know what's so interesting? So of course I will get that, right? I'm doing these phone banks across Texas with a group we have called Powered by People, and there will be the voter who picks up the phone and says, "Hey, when are you coming to get my AR-15?" or something like that. And sometimes I'll engage and we'll have a conversation. Sometimes, I might learn something. Sometimes he might learn something. Usually there's a mutual hang up before things get too nuts. But there have been so many times since I said that on the debate stage last year in Houston, where someone will come up to me and they'll say, "Beto, I've got an AR-15. And I love to shoot it. I was in the Army back in Vietnam. We used a variant of that, but I don't need it to hunt, and I don't need it for self-defense or protection in my home. There's really not a good practical use for this, and if this is going to make my grandkids safer, if this is going to address some of that white nationalist terrorism that we're seeing play across this country, and we saw 23 people murdered here in El Paso last year by a white nationalist terrorist with an AK-47, another weapon of war. That person will say to me, "You know what? I'd be happy to sell mine to the government, or to turn it in, or to not have it in the first place." And I think that one of the things I've learned is, and your point about suburban moms or suburban housewives and this stereotype or preconception that some may have, and then some may try to further, like Donald Trump. You don't know anything about anyone unless you've taken the time to listen to them, or knock on their door, or in our case today, call them on the phone and connect with them. And sometimes they will fulfill the stereotype that you have of them, right? That white, older, rural Texan who is, more interested in his Second Amendment rights than in saving the lives of the kids in that local school. That's really the exception, though. And what I find is there's so much common ground on these issues. Even something as apparently divisive as guns, you find so much common ground there, even amongst gun owners, even amongst owners of AR-15. So
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's the vast majority of gun owners are for an assault weapons ban and other responsible, reasonable gun legislation.
Absolutely.
As usual, the politicians are behind the people.
That's right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Okay, Beto, I'm really excited that we have a couple of women who are going to pop in and ask you questions. The first one is Maya Guy. Maya, are you here with us?
Maya.
Hey. All right, let's get you unmuted. And I'm so excited Maya is here. Maya started a Facebook group. She's a suburban mom in Virginia, and she started a Facebook group called Suburban Women for Kamala Harris, just knowing the support that Kamala is going to need day in and day out. This Facebook group, private Facebook group, has over 200,000 women in it today.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I mean, okay, so Maya, you're amazing. This is the first time we've gotten to see each other on the screen. We only talk on Facebook Messenger until today, but I thought it'd be really cool to have you come on as an awesome representative of suburban moms and ask your question for Beto. So go for it. Oh no, do we not have our audio?
Yeah, Maya, I can't hear you.
Oh, we did a mic check and everything. Okay, all right. We will, I think she's going to try again, but okay, we'll try again later. Beverly, maybe you can work with her on the side on that one or something. I don't know. Okay, why don't we, let's see if Lonnie's is working. So Lonnie Yuri Gentry is a suburban mom. There's her audio.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Lonnie.
Yeah. So Beto, Lonnie is a mom in northern Kentucky, but she is from Texas.
Yes, and
Where
in
in
honor of you tonight, I'm drinking Shiner. So
That's awesome.
we keep it stocked in our fridge in Kentucky. Anytime we find it, we have to have it.
So good.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Lonnie's from San Antonio. And...
Well, actually Fort Worth, but lived in San Antonio for 7 years. So.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get to claim both.
Yes, I do. Very
Lonnie and I met because she started the Facebook group called Suburban Housewives Against Trump, and we connected. And by the end of that Zoom call, we had decided that we had to join forces. So Lonnie works with Red, White, and Blue now. This is Red, White, and Blue's Facebook group that has about 150,000 women in it.
Yeah.
So again, it's just like a testament to the force of women engaging in this election. Okay, so Lonnie, it seems like you have sound. What is your question for Beto?
Yeah, so you guys have already kind of touched on the gun subject a little bit, but what I was curious to know is, since Democrats took over the House in 2018, there's been a lot of positive legislation that has been passed to prevent gun violence, but it's all still sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk. So I'm wondering, what progress on gun safety do you hope to see if and when the Democrats take back the Senate?
Yeah, I think, Katie mentioned that there is a lot of common ground amongst gun owners, non-gun owners, Republicans, Democrats, Independents on things like a universal background check. So I'd start there. We had a horrific mass shooting in Midland, Odessa last year. It was not too long after the El Paso shooting. And the shooter was unable to buy a gun through a normal dealer or a gun store, but he was able to legally purchase one, or I shouldn't say legally, he was able to purchase one through a private seller because Texas does not require background checks on those transactions. So when we say universal, we mean every single transaction of one firearm from one person to another that could have prevented that shooting in Midland, Odessa. And the people in Texas, as you know, Lonnie, like the people in Kentucky, like the people of Ohio, proud gun owning state. And we own our guns to hunt, for self-defense, we collect, we have family members in the military or in law enforcement. And so we get this, and we also get the responsibility that comes with gun ownership. So safe storage laws seem to transcend political and geographic boundaries. An extreme risk protection order used to be called a red flag law, but if someone seems as though they're going to pose a danger to themselves, and we lose so many people through gun suicide every year, or a danger to someone else, a loved one, a intimate partner, which is a unfortunate leading cause of gun deaths in Texas, then there is a legal mechanism under these extreme risk protection orders to temporarily take that firearm away from that person. And then that ownership is restored once everyone can be assured that they're okay and they will not harm themselves or harm someone else. I think those would be three great laws to start on, but there's also a lot of acceptance on an assault weapons ban, so no longer selling more of them. Less acceptance on what Katie brought up when she was talking about me knocking on your door for your AR-15. There are a lot of people who will say, look, I am a law-abiding gun owner. I have this AR-15. I've never in a million years used it against anyone. And I want to listen to and understand everyone. And I get that point of view. It's just after your community has survived one of those mass shooting terror attacks, the people in your community see every one of those weapons, which was designed for war, as a potential instrument of terror. And when you have these armed thugs in the state house in Kentucky, in the state house in Michigan, in state houses all over the country, show up in tactical gear with weapons of war, trying to intimidate lawmakers, and not just on Second Amendment issues, but on whether they got to wear masks or whatever, that's really a short hop away from terrorism, using the threat of force to try to exact a political end and ignoring the ballot box and kind of the peaceful use of power that all of us probably have taken for granted. So those are some places I would start. Tell me how you think that would fly, Lonnie, in Kentucky.
I'm of the opinion that I absolutely think that would be popular. Because I just know so many women who are like myself, who we're scared to send our kids to school, if I'm being honest. Like, we need something that's going to protect us. I feel like I'm constantly on guard if I'm at a shopping mall.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like feeling like that. This isn't the Wild West where I should have to carry a gun with me to feel safe. And so I think a lot of people would be on board with that. And I really wish that Congress could make it work.
As you pointed out in your question, we need to win a majority in the Senate to get that done. And so we're counting on you and Amy McGrath in Kentucky. We're counting on MJ Hagar, another amazing woman, combat veteran. Her helicopter shot down. After she left the military, she essentially, through the force of her personality and her courage, changed the regulations within the military so more women could serve at higher positions. So talk about a hero of mine.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She's
Awesome.
got to win that. So we need Amy and MJ in there. If they win those two races, we will have a Democratic majority, and the things that we're talking about as being possible happen. So let's stay focused on that. Thanks,
Lonnie. Thank you. Oh yeah, Lonnie. Thank you for bringing up an issue that we all care so much about, and Beto really has been a champion. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Nice to meet you.
And we're gonna try to bring Maya on one more time. She popped out. She's back on. Let's see. Let's cross our fingers. Maya, is it not happening? Okay, we're just gonna give you a virtual hug, and I think Maya and I were talking earlier about potential questions to ask you, and as we were talking, she was like juggling preparing dinner like early so she could do this. I could hear like one of her children like in the background. She's like, "Don't talk to me holding that knife," like typical, like all of us just going through our lives, and on top of work and children, adding this in the fight of our lives in the most important election maybe that we'll ever face. Maya has taken on so much, and I think that one of the questions, I don't know if she would ask it better than I would, but I think that she wanted to ask something along the lines of it, is that so often the bulk of the burden does fall on moms in households, and especially during a pandemic, it's like especially intense. And so we're just kind of interested in hearing your perspective on that. Like, how do you support your wife, Amy, and recognizing that she may not consider herself a suburban housewife, really, in the terms that Trump may either.
Hey, Amy, are you close by? She may be on a work call. She would give you the most honest answer, really. And then Maya, I know Cynthia from my team is trying to get your number so you can FaceTime me, and maybe we patch you in that way as well, because you've tried twice. We got to make this work. Yes, Cynthia, she's holding up her phone. So
I love that idea.
So Amy has a full-time job as well, and she works on educational policy and supporting teachers and great public schools in El Paso. And then, this is really interesting, Katie. So I started running for Congress in 2011, won in 2012, and then began shuttling back and forth between DC and El Paso in 2013. So from that point on, because I then ran for Senate across Texas and was never home, then spent the last year seeking the nomination, was not home. This pandemic has brought us together in a concentrated, consistent, regular way for the first time in maybe 8 years.
Wow.
And so part of me is thinking like we are headed for divorce. Like we've never had to like get to know each other like this. We got married, we started having kids. I started serving in Congress. And the beautiful thing, and I hope this has happened for everyone in their relationships, the beautiful kind of counterintuitive thing was we didn't get sick of each other, and we ended up having so much to share. I ended up understanding what it was like for her to try to manage, especially with the kids now learning from home. We're doing distance learning still in the El Paso School District. The kids' education, their homework, answering their questions in real time during the school day. And then everything else around that, cross-country practices, going for runs, getting out on the mountain, and then the emotional, this is the mother of all challenges I'm learning. It's not the shuttling kids places. It's not the helping with the homework. It's not the chores or the food or the laundry. all those things we share in. It is the toll it takes to be emotionally available and connected to your kids and to help them emotionally through middle school. Middle school is a motherfucker. And I don't think I remembered middle school accurately enough, but I've got 2 kids in middle school now. Those are some tough years, and you've got to be there when those kids come home from school or they're about to go to school, and they're going into the meat grinder of, you know, the social dynamic in middle school. So I have so much newfound respect for her for carrying, again, not just the logistical load, which was enough, but carrying the emotional load for our family. And I'm trying to find my way in to do more of that work. But that I have so much respect for her. And you know what? Last quick anecdote. We just celebrated our 15th wedding anniversary last week. And we, for the first time since I can remember us, since we've had kids, we went to a little mountain town about 2 hours from El Paso without our kids. We had a babysitter for them here in El Paso and just hung out together. It was so awesome to reconnect. So if you can afford to do that in your life and get away for a little while with your spouse, by all means, that I feel like we've got 15 in us.
No, you got to do it. It's so important. And I think, Beto, this answer is satisfactory for 2 reasons. Well, one reason it's sort of combined, because you both named the honest truth that middle school is a motherfucker. And while acknowledging the emotional labor that women undergo every single day of our lives with raising kids. I mean, so Maya, like, satisfactory because those 2 boxes were checked, right? Okay.
Yay,
okay,
Maya.
thanks. Maybe you guys can connect on FaceTime. Thank you for being here, Maya. All right. So this time is going by fast. I'm going to ask you a couple questions from our rapid fire round.
Got it.
And then we are going to invite a few women who are going to have a conversation, kind of reflecting on our conversation, to pop on here, and you can just say hello, and then I know that you got to go be with those kids. So, a piece of advice, Beto, that you would give your teenage self.
You don't have enough time for this one, but I was such an awkward, weird, alien life form.
Sign of good character.
In middle school and high school. Absolutely. And so you think like you're going to be stuck in weird city for the rest of your life, and just things get better. Did they just do? And
you meet Amy.
You meet Amy. If you will just hang on, you're going to meet Amy. That would be my advice. You said it better.
You got to get through the Lisas, but then you meet your Amy.
Yes.
Yes. All right. All right. The person you'd most want to get a glass of wine with. This could be someone who is still living, not.
So now that I've had
or an IPA. You could also have an IPA with this person.
Or I can also have an IPA.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow. You said living or dead?
Anyone. Mm-hmm.
How could you pass up having a beer with Abe Lincoln? And
did you know my 5-year-old's name is Lincoln? Because
no, but I could intuit it from the bookshelf behind you. Yeah, Abe Lincoln. Let's have a beer with Abe. And
I love that answer. Okay, one thing you're grateful for right now.
Oh, going back to what we just talked about, my family. Just being with them, and I just lucked the hell out in life with Amy and with these 3 kids. And not that we don't have our challenges, everyone does, but I don't know that it gets any better than this. So super grateful for them.
All right, Beto, thank you so much. I am going to bring on, let's see, I think we have Julie. Is Jessica with us? I think we have, Julie is our organizing director at Red Wine and Blue, organizing these women across the state. We've got Jessica, there's Lonnie again. Maya's probably still working on her audio, and hopefully we'll be able to bring her back to the combo. But these are some of the amazing women that we have here, Beto, in our network with Red Wine and Blue. Jessica Hare has been using her voice with us lately to share her story of how the Affordable Care Act is keeping her son alive. And she's such an important voice in our community. And so they're just going to reflect some on our conversation, but just, wanted you to have the opportunity to see a few more faces and say hello and goodbye before you hop to do the important work of parenting.
Well, I'm so grateful that you had me on and that you reached out to me and that you brought me into this and learning a little bit about the organization and then the other organizations you just connected us to today. I talked about needing to find reasons to be optimistic and hopeful. And this makes me so hopeful. When you know that there are this many good people out there doing this incredibly important good work, we cannot but win. Not that it's going to be easy, not that it's going to happen on its own. It's going to take a lot from all of us over the next 35 days. But I know that we have the people to do it, and you all are the proof of that. So thanks for lifting me up today and making my day and giving me a reason to drink in the middle of the day.
We are always
I was
here for
looking
that.
for one.
If you're ever looking for a reason for to have a little drink, just give us a call.
I will.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Beto.
Thank
You all be well.
Thank you. I actually I'm in a hotel room, so all I have is my Diet Coke today. I normally have my wine, but I don't have my supplies.
That's acceptable. That's
Yeah.
okay. Okay. All right. I'm going to leave you ladies to it. I'm going to just say a little prayer that Maya's voice gets to be heard sometimes before. Wait, I just heard you.
You heard that? Yay!
Aw.
That was so
Maya.
weird.
I know, right?
I know.
Technology, can't live with her, can't live without her,
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's great to see all of you guys on the screen. I'm going to pop out so all of your beautiful faces can take up more of it. And always wonderful seeing you. Thank you. Mwah.
All right. Thank you, ladies, for being on. And Maya, I am so glad that we can hear you. I'm going to let you go first since you have not had a chance to speak, no matter how hard we tried there. So I just want everyone to introduce themselves and just say a little bit hi and where you're from. So Maya, please go first. Use your voice here.
I'm Maya Guy, and I live in Stafford, Virginia. And I'm really happy to be here, and I'm glad you guys can finally hear me.
Jessica, we have not seen you yet, so tell us a little bit about you, where you are.
Hi, I'm Jessica Hare. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. I don't know what else you want me to say. I'm very scared because my son is in 3rd grade, and that's pretty rough. So I'm not looking forward to the motherfucker stage of middle school at all.
Yeah. That is probably the hardest year. I don't think my daughter might be watching this, so maybe she's in the background saying no, Mom. But mine are in high school and college now, and I do feel like middle school was it is the hardest. So when he said that, I started laughing. But we have Lonnie. Lonnie, you already introduced yourself a little bit, but say hi.
Yeah, I think Katie already kind of told everybody who I am, but I founded the Suburban Housewives Against Trump group. I live in Northern Kentucky, just south of Cincinnati, Ohio. And I have 3 kids. So I'm actually heading off to a soccer game in about 30 minutes.
Of course you are. And so Lonnie, you are originally from Texas. So tell us, how was that getting to ask that question to?
Oh, it was so, he has become such a, I guess, icon, if you want to say that in Texas. And so that was really cool. Funny, story about my family. So my parents still live in Texas, and I don't think that they have voted for a Democrat since Carter. And Beto, I believe, was probably the first Democrat that they voted for. They were so excited about his candidacy. They even had the yard sign and everything, which is so out of character for my parents. So I mean, people like him that are drawing the young people into the political process in Texas, it's just amazing to see. And I think that's why we're starting to see that Texas is starting to turn purple now. We're not just that solid red state that people always assumed.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think that he excited so many people with the fact that where's Texas, where it's supposed to be Republican, and he had this really tight race. People are watching it. And like you said, engaging young people. I think I just said my daughter was watching this feed. She's 17, but she knew all about who he was, watched it. People they pay attention, and it was exciting. And I think the way he spoke too, so openly, and just said things like,
he's real.
Yeah, very real. So, Jessica, I know you watched the interview. What did you like? What stood out? Is there anything that was anything that he said that made you just go yeah?
I mean, I think that I think it's great that first of all, I think it's very important that everybody acknowledges white terrorism, the domestic terrorism that's happening around the country. And I think to talk about it openly and talk about our rational approach to dealing with that, or a rational approach to gun control, like universal background checks. I don't know how, I have a hard time understanding how the other side can argue with that when it really is just common sense and safety. And I mean, that's what's funny too, Lonnie. I was thinking, like, we send our kids, we have to look at bulletproof backpacks for school for our kids. And now we have COVID to deal with. And it's like, but everybody's throw your kids back in school and, we don't have to worry about them. And it's insane. So we're not going to get away from that discussion, and we need to deal with it. And no matter how hard the old guard and the NRA tries to delay and put it off, it's coming.
For sure. Maya, did you get to watch any of that? Or I know you were kind of shuffling around from your computer.
I still was able to watch.
Or take something that really resonated with you?
Honestly, the whole thing about the gun control, I absolutely agree with, that was our focus, and then COVID kind of took us off of that focus, but it's still there, right? We haven't had a school shooting because we haven't had school, not because we healed or we got better, or we've figured out a way to check mental illness and to keep people engaged. Like, we still have the same problems, and we have COVID, right? So it's more important now that we address these things. And I don't believe it would be addressed under this current administration. I don't think anything would be addressed under it. So it's incredibly important that honestly, that women come and save the day. Like, we need to get out and vote. And if there's any way that this is going to be turned around, it'll be women led, to be honest, because men haven't done a great job of it.
Yeah. Well, actually, I really appreciate you saying that, because that's kind of what Red, Wine, and Blue is all about, is women empowering women to use their voices and talk. And we've had this conversation a lot this week, and I've actually got to see Jessica in person at something, and with our masks on and sitting far away, but we got to talk. And all of these women, I don't think they recognize their power and how you can change people's minds by sharing your stories and telling your truths, and not being scared to speak up and do that. And that's what Red, Wine, and Blue is all about, is women empowering other women, supporting other women, and getting involved and saying what is important to them. And one of the ways that we do that is by asking people to download the Outvote app, which the information is on the screen here, to join with Red, Wine, and Blue. And we help you talk to your friends. We help give you content and things to share, like that video that Katie just played. Things that you can share with friends and start conversations, and allow you to talk and share that information with your friends in a fun way. So we hope everybody who totally agrees with what Maya just said, is that women are going to be the ones leading the change. But we have to do it, ladies. I mean, there's a clock on this. We need to step up and start doing it. So I think it is incredibly important. I will just say, I loved the segment where he talked about walking into the Women's March. Lonnie, what did you what was your reaction to that? I just thought that was fabulous.
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
Oh, sorry. I didn't hear it cut out for a second. I loved that. Because it's so important to know that there are men who are supporting women, I think, right? Like, to know that we have men in Congress who actually value us and value the things that we're doing. And so I love that he was at first kind of a little shy, and then he jumped into that. And, that's kind of been my thing all along. There's been debate in our group, at least, about, should we let men in? Should we not let men in? Whatever. And I don't have a problem with men. If they're men who support women, and obviously he does. And so I love to see that, because, women need to step up and take their rightful place where we deserve to be, but we also need to have that support from the guys in the room too. So it's nice to see that.
And Jessica, I know that you've kind of been new to like speaking up, and you've become much more vocal and using your voice to share your story and make an impact. How has that been? How do you feel about doing that now? I know it's newer for you.
I've been doing it for years with just the people I know, right? But not on a broader scale. And I'm kind of kicking myself for not having taken action earlier. I think that for Maya and Lonnie, I have a medically fragile little boy who wasn't supposed to live past a year, and he's now 8 years old. And he spent the first 19 and a half months in the hospital, and we had to qualify for a Medicaid program to bring him home. And our life is just, completely upended from that. And we're now dependent upon the system, right, to keep him alive. And people don't know about families like ours. They don't know about, they think, oh, you go to college and you work and you have this life that you pictured. And that's not always the case. And it's not so easy. And there are many, many families like mine out there, but we don't have an outlet. So I really appreciate Red, Wine, and Blue for giving me an outlet and all the families like mine. And, hope that, we have stories that need to be told like all of us do. So it's great to have that platform. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite part of the work we've been doing, is just meeting women like all of you on this screen, but seeing women step outside their comfort zone, step up, say things, share what's important to them, and explain to people why it's important and how our policies and our politicians actually, have an impact on our daily life. I think that is just so important for women to recognize. I'm so glad to Jessica, and I'm glad that she has become involved and has been talking with us about those, issues that are important to her. Facebook page. Can you tell us about that and maybe just tell us a little bit about that?
Sorry, Julie, cut out a little bit.
Oh, I cut out. Okay, sorry. I was going to say, Maya, I said I think you are also very good at using your voice because you have a Facebook group. So why don't you just tell us about that and how that how has that changed your perspective, or how has that made you feel since you become more vocal with your group?
Okay, thank you. I've always been vocal in my community about what isn't fair, what needs to be done. I believe a good citizen isn't just going to work and paying taxes, but it's also supporting those around you. I was raised to believe that it is your responsibility as a good citizen to help those that are less fortunate. That's how I raised my kids. And so you always have to advocate for the least of us, right? Because if the least of us have what I have, then we'd all be okay. So that's always been like how I live my life. And then with this group, it's just more of an extension of that. And just helping other people get the vote out, right? Or talk about, or even learn about what our issues are as a country and what we're facing, and then being able to try our hardest to affect change in our little spot in the world. But that's basically always been how I've lived.
That's great. Do you find women in your group and the Facebook group, do you find people using their voices for the first time? Have you had a chance to talk to women about that or encourage them?
Yes, some are. Some women are, voting for the first time, and they're in their 50s and their 60s because if I can use what they've shared with me, is it never really affected them as much. They've always felt, I guess I could say, protected. I think no matter who is in office, they would be safe. They have, particular rights, and they have a nice home and they have food on the table, but this is different for them now. I think it's obvious that rights are being challenged, or it will be. And, doesn't matter when you wake up to the fact that you really need to advocate for yourself and for others. The fact that they are waking up is a blessing as far as I'm concerned. But I think a ton of people, honestly, even if we go back into what's happening with social justice, with George Floyd, with Breonna Taylor, people are finally waking up. I mean, it's 2020 and it took time, but thank God that we are having an awakening, right? And again, I think my group is kind of trying to help foster that. I think that if we're good people, we should all be doing that in our personal lives, just trying to foster people to continue to wake up, giving them tools, having grace when people are really slow waker-uppers, right? You know, I'm not a morning person, but
Yeah.
you know, give people grace because you know it takes a little bit of time. You know, breaking down the rhetoric. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love hearing all the stories. I appreciate you all being here, and everything you just said ties in exactly, like I said, to what we're doing. So again, if if you're ready to make friends, I really hope that you guys who are watching will get involved with Red, Wine, and Blue by downloading our Outvote app and communicating with us. Like I said, I've met all these ladies just with Maya today for the first time, but I've met all these ladies just in this last few months because we all decided to step up and use our voices and try to make a difference in this election. And I would love to see more of you come and join with us to do that. I know together, but there is no stopping us when we all collectively work together and use our power, because we have a lot of it, ladies, a lot of it. But thank you guys so much for coming on, and it was very exciting to watch Beto talk, and I hope you guys all have a rest of your evening at the soccer game.
Thanks, Julie.
Hi, Julie.